My wife humiliated me in front of everyone I'd ever worked to impress. 300 people, my biggest night, and she said one sentence that turned all of it to ash. The worst part wasn't what she said, it was where she was looking when she said it. I walked out. No words, no fight, just gone. Megan called 12 times that night. Then she stopped. She told her friends I'd finally snapped. She told her family I was unstable. She had no idea I wasn't falling apart. I was getting ready. 6 months of patience, one phone call to an old friend, and a shoebox I didn't know existed, delivered by someone my wife never even bothered to learn the name of. Some debts take years to collect. This one was about to come due. Let me take you back to that night, the night everything changed. The launch party was held at a rooftop venue downtown. String lights, open bar, a jazz trio playing softly in the corner. 14 years of 70-hour weeks had led to this moment, the grand opening of Caldwell Gardens, my company's expansion from commercial landscaping into high-end retail. Investors mingled with clients. My crew stood near the bar in clothes I knew they'd bought just for tonight. My business partner gave a speech about vision and persistence. Everyone clapped. Then someone handed Megan the microphone. Time for the spouses to toast their partners. Megan, you're up first. She took the mic with that smile she wore at parties, the one that never quite reached her eyes. Nathan, she said, and the room got quiet. 300 faces turned toward us. What can I say about Nathan? She paused, took a sip of champagne. He's dependable, solid. Another pause. You always know exactly what you're going to get with him. The way she said it, like she was describing an appliance, like I was something that came with a warranty. But that wasn't what made my blood freeze. It was her eyes. While she spoke, they drifted across the room and landed on a man standing near the bar. Garrett Nolan, my accountant, the guy handling the finances for this entire expansion. He raised his glass to her, just slightly, just enough, and she smiled at him, a real smile, the kind she hadn't given me in years. The room stayed quiet. Someone coughed. A few awkward laughs scattered through the crowd. I set down my champagne glass on the nearest table. The clink was louder than it should have been. I didn't say anything, didn't make a scene. I just walked, past the investors, past my employees, past Megan, who was already laughing with someone like nothing had happened. The elevator took forever. I stared at my reflection in the polished doors. 43 years old, gray creeping into my temples, lines around my eyes I didn't remember earning. Dependable, solid. Is that all I was? The night air hit me when I stepped outside, cool for Denver in September. I walked to my truck in the parking garage, started the engine, and drove. My phone started buzzing before I hit the highway, Megan's name flashing on the screen. I turned it face down on the passenger seat. The city lights blurred past my window. I drove north toward the mountains, no destination in mind, just movement, just distance. Most men would have gone back, made a scene, demanded answers. But I wasn't most men, and I wasn't surprised. I'd known something was wrong for months. I'd just been waiting for her to confirm it. What Megan didn't understand, what she couldn't have known, was that her little performance at the launch party wasn't a revelation. It was permission. Permission to open a folder I'd been building since March. I drove for 2 hours before I pulled into a rest stop near Fort Collins. The mountains were just shadows against the sky. The parking lot was empty except for a semi idling at the far end. I killed my headlights and sat there, hands still on the wheel, jaw clenched so tight my teeth ached. My phone had stopped buzzing an hour ago. 17 missed calls, 23 texts. I didn't read them. Instead, I reached into the back seat and grabbed my laptop bag, the computer I used for job sites, the one Megan didn't know existed because she never paid attention to what I carried. I opened it and navigated to a folder labeled Equipment Warranties 2024. Boring name. Intentionally boring. Inside were 57 files. 6 months of watching, documenting, pretending I didn't notice while I noticed everything. It started in March when I saw a credit card bill on the kitchen counter, a card I didn't recognize, charges at restaurants I'd never been to, hotels in parts of the city I had no reason to visit. When I asked Megan about it, she laughed, said it was her personal card for work expenses, said I was being paranoid. I let it go, but I didn't forget. I started paying attention after that. Small things at first. The way she angled her phone away from me. The Thursday afternoon yoga classes that never appeared on our bank statement. The new perfume she wore. One I didn't buy her. I'm not proud of what I did next, but I did it anyway. I checked our credit report. Found 3 cards opened in my name that I never applied for. Total balance, $42,000. I pulled our business account records, found payments to vendors I'd never heard of, consulting fees with no paperwork attached, small amounts, $500 here, $800 there, but they added up. Over $60,000 in the past year alone. Every Friday for 6 months I added to this folder. Screenshots, bank statements, photos of her car parked at places she said she'd never been. I even followed her once. Sat in my truck across the street from a coffee shop on Colfax Avenue and watched her through the window. She was with a man, laughing, leaning close, her hand on his arm in that way she used to touch me. It was Garrett, the accountant I'd hired 8 months ago to handle the garden center finances, the man she'd just smiled at across the room. I recorded a video that day. 40 seconds of my wife and my accountant looking at each other like I didn't exist. I'd watched that video maybe 100 times since, torturing myself, looking for any explanation that wasn't the obvious one. There wasn't one. Now I sat in a dark parking lot scrolling through the evidence, every file another nail in a coffin I'd been building without admitting it. My phone buzzed again. I glanced at the screen expecting Megan. It wasn't her. A text from Cole Whitman, my college roommate, the forensic accountant I'd called 2 weeks ago when the numbers stopped making any sense. Got your message. I've been digging. It's worse than you thought. Much worse. Call me when you can. Doesn't matter what time. I stared at that message for a long time. Worse than I thought? I dialed his number. He picked up on the first ring. Nathan, I was hoping you'd call tonight. Are you somewhere private? I'm in a parking lot outside Fort Collins. My wife doesn't know where I am. Good, because what I found, you're going to want to sit down for this. I was already sitting, but somehow I knew that wasn't going to help.
Cole didn't waste time with small talk. The credit cards are the least of it, he said. I traced those vendor payments you flagged. They're going to a shell company called Mountain Peak Solutions, registered in Nevada. Know who the listed owner is? My stomach dropped. Tell me. The company was created in your name 8 months ago. Your social security number, your signature on the incorporation documents. I never signed anything like that. I know, the signature's a forgery. A decent one, but not perfect. Someone's been running money through this shell company and making it look like you're paying yourself. Classic embezzlement structure, but with a twist. If anyone investigates, you look like the one committing fraud. I gripped the phone so hard my knuckles ached. How much? Cole. Total. Confirmed so far? $73,000, but I'm still digging. There are more transactions going back further than I initially checked. $73,000 stolen from my business, my name forged on documents I'd never seen. There's something else, Cole said. I pulled phone records. Your wife's cell has been in contact with a number registered to Garrett Nolan. Over 400 calls and texts in the last 8 months. They talk almost every day, Nathan, sometimes multiple times. I closed my eyes. I'm meeting with my lawyer tomorrow, I said. Can you put together a full report? Everything documented, organized, ready for legal action? Already working on it. I'll have something preliminary by noon. But Nathan, this is fraud. Federal fraud. Someone could go to prison for this. Someone. He meant my wife. I'll call you tomorrow, I said. And Cole, thank you. Don't thank me yet. There's more to find. I can feel it. I ended the call and sat in the darkness, trying to process what I'd just learned. My wife hadn't just cheated on me. She'd stolen from me, created a fake company in my name, forged my signature, built an entire structure designed to drain everything I'd worked for and make me look like the criminal if it ever collapsed. 14 years of sacrifice, gone. I drove to a motel outside Loveland and paid cash for a room. Didn't sleep, just lay on the bed staring at the ceiling, running numbers in my head, thinking about all the times Megan had kissed me goodbye while planning my destruction. The next morning, I drove to my office before my crew arrived. I needed to think, to plan. But when I pulled into the parking lot, someone was already there. An older woman stood near the entrance holding a cardboard box. Worn jeans, a gray sweater despite the September warmth, hair pulled back in a simple braid. It took me a moment to recognize her. Dolores Castillo, the woman who'd cleaned our house every Thursday for 8 years. I got out of my truck slowly. Dee, what are you doing here? She looked at me with an expression I couldn't read. Sadness, determination, something else underneath. I heard what happened, she said, at your party. Word travels in this town. How did you know where to find me? Your office address is on the checks Mrs. Caldwell writes me. She paused. When she forgets to pay me. She held out the cardboard box. It was old, worn at the corners, the kind you'd store shoes in. 8 years of things she forgot I could see, things she threw away thinking they'd disappear, things she said when she forgot I was still in the house. Dee met my eyes. It wasn't right what they did to you. Someone needed to remember. Have you ever been saved by someone you barely noticed was watching? I took the shoebox from her hands.
We went inside my office. Dee sat across from my desk, hands folded in her lap, back straight like she was waiting for a job interview. I set the shoebox between us. Before I open this, I said, I need to understand. Why did you keep all of this? Why now? Dee was quiet for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was steady. The first year I worked for you, Mr. Caldwell, you learned my daughter's name, asked about her quinceañera, gave me a Christmas bonus when Mrs. Caldwell forgot to pay me for 3 weeks. She paused. You treated me like a person. And Megan, your wife looks through me, always has. I'm the cleaning lady. I come, I go, I don't exist. Her jaw tightened. But I exist, Mr. Caldwell. I see things, I hear things, and what I've seen and heard in that house, it wasn't right. I lifted the lid off the shoebox. Inside was chaos organized into terrible order, receipts bundled with rubber bands, handwritten notes on scraps of paper, a small USB drive taped to the inside of the lid. The receipts are from the trash, Dee explained. Hotels, restaurants, jewelry store, all from the past 2 years. She threw them away like they meant nothing. I picked up a receipt from the Belmont Hotel downtown, dated 3 months ago. Room service for 2, champagne. The notes are things I overheard, dates, names, pieces of conversations. I wrote them down after my shifts. I don't know why. Something told me to. I flipped through the scraps. Dee's handwriting was small and precise.
April 14. G called during cleaning. She said he suspects nothing, laughed about it. May 2nd. G's car and driveway, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Mr. C at work. They were in the bedroom. June 19. Heard her say the accounts are almost ready, something about Nevada. My hands trembled as I read. What's on the drive? Dee's expression shifted. Something like guilt crossed her face. 3 weeks ago, I was cleaning the upstairs bathroom. She was in the bedroom on the phone. Door was open a crack. She was talking to him, Garrett. Dee met my eyes. She didn't know I was still in the house. I used my phone to record through the door. Almost 11 minutes. I picked up the USB drive. Such a small thing, light as nothing. I'm not proud of it, Dee said quietly. Recording someone like that, Mr. Caldwell. But the things she was saying about you, Mr. Caldwell, the things they were planning. What were they planning? I think you should hear it yourself. I plugged the drive into my laptop. One audio file. I pressed play. Megan's voice filled the room, crystal clear, laughing. Nathan's clueless. He works himself to death and never checks anything. The garden center financing is perfect. All those new accounts, new vendors. He signs whatever I put in front of him. A man's voice, Garrett. And the shell company? Mountain Peak. It's beautiful. Everything runs through there. By the time anyone notices, we'll be gone. 6 more months and we'll have enough. What about the launch party? He's expecting you to be the supportive wife. Megan laughed again, a sound I used to love. Now it made my stomach turn. I'll smile and say something nice. He'll believe whatever I tell him. He always does. The recording continued. Details about bank accounts, timelines, plans to leave the country. 11 minutes of my wife and her lover discussing how to destroy me. When it ended, the office was silent. Dee watched me with worried eyes. I'm sorry, Mr. Caldwell. I know that was hard to hear. Hard to hear? My wife's voice, calm and confident, describing how she'd been robbing me blind while I worked myself to exhaustion for our future? If you've made it this far with me, you understand why some truths demand to be heard. Staying subscribed means staying ready for stories people try to bury. Dee, I said finally, this recording, these receipts, you may have just saved my life. She shook her head. I just did what was right. Someone had to remember.
Cole called at noon with his full report. I was still at the office. Dee had gone home after giving me her phone number and a promise to testify if it came to that. The shoebox sat on my desk like evidence at a crime scene, which I suppose it was. I found more, Cole said. A lot more. Tell me. The shell company goes deeper than I thought. Mountain Peak Solutions has been receiving payments from your business account for 8 months. But here's the thing. It's also been making payments to a brokerage account in the Cayman Islands. How much is in that account? Can't confirm yet, but based on transfer amounts, I'd estimate over $100,000, maybe more. $100,000. Money I'd earned, money that was supposed to grow my business, pay my employees, secure my future. There's more. I pulled Garrett Nolan's financial records. He's been depositing cash every week. Small amounts, nothing that would trigger bank reporting requirements, but it adds up to about $40,000 over the past year. His cut? I said. Exactly. They've been splitting everything. He handles the accounting, creates the fake invoices, forges your signatures. She moves the money through the shell company. Classic partnership. I rubbed my eyes. The lack of sleep was catching up to me. There's one more thing, Cole said. His voice changed. Hesitant. I found medical records. I probably shouldn't have access to these, but you need to know. Know what? 4 months ago, your wife visited a clinic in Boulder, private facility. She was pregnant, Nathan, about 7 weeks. The world tilted. She terminated it. The procedure was paid for in cash, no insurance claim, nothing that would show up on any statement you might see.
pregnant. Megan had been pregnant. We hadn't been intimate in over 5 months. She always had an excuse. Tired, stressed, not in the mood. The timing, I managed. It wasn't. No, it couldn't have been yours. She'd been carrying another man's child, and she'd erased it like a mistake, like it never existed. Would you want to know everything, even if some truths are impossible to unhear? I sat there for a long time after Cole hung up. The shoebox, the recording, the shell company, the offshore account, and now this. My wife hadn't just betrayed me, she'd built an entire shadow life I knew nothing about, a life where I was just the fool who funded everything. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "Mr. Caldwell, this is Vanessa Nolan, Garrett's wife. I think we need to talk. I have information you'll want to see. Can we meet?" Garrett's wife? Megan's best friend, the woman who came to our house for dinner parties and book clubs and wine nights. Another victim? Or maybe another piece of the puzzle. I typed back, named the place and time. Her response came immediately. "Tomorrow, 10 a.m., the coffee shop on Pearl Street in Boulder. Come alone." I stared at those words. Megan's best friend wanted to meet in secret, which meant either she knew everything her husband had done, or she'd just found out. Either way, tomorrow I'd have answers.
The coffee shop on Pearl Street was quiet on a Tuesday morning. I spotted Vanessa immediately, back corner, just like she said. She was younger than Megan by a few years, early 30s, dark hair pulled back, circles under her eyes that told me she hadn't been sleeping either. 2 cups of coffee already sat on the table. She'd been waiting. "Mr. Caldwell." She didn't smile. "Thank you for coming." "Nathan," I said, sliding into the seat across from her. "And you didn't give me much choice. Your text said you have information." "I do." She pulled a folder from her bag and set it between us. "But first, I need to know, how much do you already know about what they've been doing?" I studied her face, looking for deception, looking for any sign she was part of this. All I saw was exhaustion and anger. "I know my wife has been having an affair with your husband. I know they've been stealing from my business through a shell company. I know about the forged signatures, the offshore account, and the secret pregnancy." I paused. "Your turn." Vanessa's jaw tightened at the word pregnancy. "I didn't know about that," she said quietly, "but I'm not surprised." She opened the folder and spread its contents across the table. Photographs, bank statements, printed text messages. "I found out about the affair 6 months ago. Garrett was careless with his phone one night. I saw messages from someone saved as M. The things they said to each other." She shook her head. "I didn't confront him. I started watching instead, documenting. Like me. Like you." She pushed a photograph toward me. "Recognize this?" It was Garrett and Megan at a restaurant, intimate, his hand on hers across the table. She was wearing the diamond earrings I'd given her for our anniversary. "I followed them 3 times, Vanessa said. Hotels, restaurants. Once I watched them walk into a real estate office together. I think they've been looking at property." "Property?" "Somewhere warm, Costa Rica maybe. I overheard Garrett on the phone once talking about beach houses and residency requirements. They weren't just stealing from me, they were planning an escape." "Why didn't you confront him?" I asked. "Same reason you didn't confront her, I imagine. I wanted to know everything first. I wanted to make sure when I made my move there was nowhere for them to run." Her eyes hardened. "Garrett doesn't know I'm here. Neither does Megan. As far as they're concerned, we're both clueless." "So why tell me now?" "Because of what happened at your launch party. Everyone's talking about it. Megan's been telling people you had a breakdown, that you're unstable, paranoid, possibly dangerous." Vanessa leaned forward. "She's building a narrative, Nathan. If you try to expose her, she'll claim you're crazy. She'll use the divorce to take everything you have left." The pieces clicked into place.
Megan wasn't just stealing from me, she was preparing to destroy my reputation. When the truth came out, she wanted everyone to believe I was the villain. "I have a lawyer," I said. "He's drafting papers. Once I file, everything goes public. That's why I'm here." Vanessa pushed another document toward me. "This is a signed statement from me. Dates, times, locations, everything I witnessed. Your lawyer can add it to whatever case you're building." I picked up the paper. 4 pages of detailed observations, testimony from the wife of the man who'd been helping to destroy me. "You understand what this means," I said. "If you testify against Garrett—" "My marriage is over," she finished. "I know. It's been over for a long time. I just didn't want to admit it." She met my eyes. "But I'm not going to let them win, not after everything they've done to both of us." I reached across the table and shook her hand. "Then I guess we're allies now." "Allies," she agreed. "Let's make sure they never see us coming."
I hadn't spoken to Megan's parents since the launch party. Frank and Diane Merritt lived in a quiet neighborhood in Littleton, 20 minutes south of Denver. They'd treated me like a son for 11 years. Frank helped me pour the foundation for our first greenhouse. Diane made green chili every Christmas because she knew it was my favorite. I figured Megan had already poisoned them against me, told them I was unstable, paranoid, dangerous. So when Frank called me Thursday morning, I almost didn't answer. "Nathan, we need to talk. Can you come to the house today?" His voice was hard, controlled, the voice of a man trying not to lose his temper. "I'll be there in an hour." The drive felt longer than usual. I brought the folder Cole had compiled, the shoebox from Dee, Vanessa's signed statement, everything organized, everything documented. If they wanted answers, I'd give them answers. Diane opened the door. Her eyes were red, swollen from crying. She didn't say anything, just stepped aside to let me in. Frank sat in his recliner, hands gripping the armrests. Diane took her place on the couch. I sat in the chair across from them, the folder on my lap. "Megan came by yesterday," Frank said. "Told us everything. Said you walked out on her at the party, disappeared for days. Said you've been accusing her of things that aren't true." I nodded slowly. "That's her version." "She also said you're trying to destroy her, that you're filing for divorce and trying to take everything." Diane's voice was shaking. "Nathan, I've known you for 11 years. You're a good man, but Megan is my daughter. If you're doing what she says—" "I'm not." I opened the folder and set it on the coffee table between us. "Before you decide whose side you're on, I need you to see something. And I'm warning you now, it's going to be hard to hear." I showed them everything. The bank statements, the credit card applications with my forged signature, the shell company documents, the hotel receipts from Dee's shoebox, the text messages between Megan and Garrett, the recording where my wife laughed about how clueless I was. Frank's face went from skeptical to shocked to something I'd never seen from him before, cold fury. Diane just cried, covering her mouth with her hand. When I finished, Frank stood up and walked to the window, his back to us. The silence stretched for what felt like hours. "My daughter did this?" he finally said, not a question. "Yes, sir, all of it." "The lying, the stealing, the affair?" "All of it." Diane looked up at me, tears streaming down her face. "Nathan, I'm so sorry. I doubted you. I should have known. Megan's always she's always wanted more than she had, but I never thought she'd—" She couldn't finish. Frank turned around. His eyes were wet, but his jaw was set. "What do you need from us?" "I need you to know the truth, that's all. I'm not asking you to choose between your daughter and me. She's your family." "So are you," Frank said firmly. "You've been part of this family for 11 years. You built a life with my daughter, and what she's done to you—" He shook his head. "It's unconscionable." Diane stood up suddenly. "Frank, she's our daughter. We can't just hold her accountable?" His voice rose. "She's been stealing from this man, Diane, committing crimes in his name, destroying his life. And for what? For some affair with her best friend's husband? She needs us. What she needs is to face the consequences of her actions." I watched them, these two people who'd been married 40 years, suddenly on opposite sides of a divide. "Mr. Merritt, Mrs. Merritt, please, don't let Megan tear your marriage apart too." Frank shook his head. "This isn't about you, son. This is about right and wrong, and what my daughter did is wrong, period." Diane was crying harder now. "You're going to choose him over our own daughter?" "I'm choosing truth over lies. There's a difference." Has anyone in your life ever surprised you by choosing honesty over loyalty? I'd love to hear that story in the comments. I left their house an hour later with Frank's promise to testify if needed and Diane's tearful silence. The drive back felt heavy. I just watched a family start to crack, and I was the reason, whether I wanted to be or not.
My lawyer's name was Bennett Cross. He worked out of a small firm in downtown Denver. Not flashy, not expensive, but thorough. The kind of man who read every line twice and never missed a detail. I met him Friday afternoon with everything I'd gathered. The folder from Cole, the shoebox from Dee, Vanessa's statement, Frank's promise to testify. Bennett spread it all across his conference table and studied it for nearly an hour without speaking. When he finally looked up, his expression was grim. "Nathan, what your wife has done isn't just grounds for divorce, it's criminal fraud. The forged signatures, the shell company, the identity theft." He tapped the documents. "We're talking federal crimes, multiple felonies. What are my options? You can file a police report and let the system handle it. She could face up to 10 years, depending on how aggressive the DA wants to be." He paused. "Or you can use this as leverage." "Meaning?" "You tell her to sign over everything you want, the house, the business, zero alimony, clean break, or you file criminal charges. No negotiation, no middle ground." "And if I go the criminal route?" "She probably goes to prison, but the process takes years and costs a fortune. Plus, the money she stole is likely already gone or hidden offshore. The leverage option gets you what you want fast." I thought about it. Megan in handcuffs, the trial, the headlines, years of appeals. "I want the leverage option," I said, "but I want her to know exactly how close she came to prison. I want her to understand what she's escaping." Bennett nodded slowly. "I can make that happen. I'll have papers ready by Monday." I left his office feeling something I hadn't felt in weeks: control. That evening, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost ignored it. "Nathan, it's Simone. Simone Hartley." The name hit me like a wave from another life. Simone Hartley. We'd dated junior and senior year of high school. First love, first heartbreak. She'd gone to art school in California. I'd stayed in Colorado to start my business. That was over 20 years ago. "Simone, how did you get my number?" "I ran into your business partner, Mike, at the hardware store yesterday. He mentioned what happened at your launch party." She paused. "Nathan, I know we haven't talked in forever, and maybe this is overstepping, but if you need someone to talk to, someone who's not involved in all this, I'm here. I went through a divorce 3 years ago. I know how isolating it can feel." There was something in her voice, genuine concern, no judgment, no pity. "I appreciate that," I said. "Honestly, I could use a friendly ear right now." "Are you free tomorrow afternoon? There's a cafe near the art district. Quiet place, good coffee." I thought about my schedule. Nothing but rage and planning. "Yeah, I can do that," I said. 3 o'clock. Place is called the Blue Door. I'll be waiting." After we hung up, I sat in my truck wondering what I'd just agreed to. Simone Hartley. I hadn't thought about her in years. But hearing her voice brought back memories of a simpler time, when trust came easy, when love didn't feel like a trap.
Maybe that's what I needed right now, a reminder that not everyone destroys what they touch.
The confrontation happened on Saturday night. Megan's friend Kristen was throwing a dinner party at her house in Cherry Hills, a celebration of nothing in particular, just an excuse for the social circle to drink wine and gossip. Megan would be there, Garrett too, since Kristen's husband worked with him. Vanessa told me about it. She was invited too, expected to show up with a smile and pretend everything was normal. "They don't know we've talked," she said when we met that afternoon. "They think we're both still in the dark." Then let's use that. We planned it carefully. Vanessa would arrive first, act normal, wait for my signal. I would show up uninvited, unexpected, and I would tell the truth. The house was exactly what I expected. Massive, manicured lawn, cars that cost more than my first truck lined the driveway. I parked on the street and walked to the front door. My heart pounded, but my hands were steady. Kristen answered. Her smile froze when she saw me. "Nathan, I didn't know you were—" "I wasn't invited, but I need to speak to my wife." She stepped aside, too confused to argue. I walked through the foyer into the dining room. 16 people sat around a long table. Candles, wine glasses, laughter dying the moment I appeared. Megan was at the far end. Garrett sat 3 seats away, close enough to exchange glances, but far enough to avoid suspicion. My wife's face went white. "Nathan, what are you doing here?" "I'm here to tell the truth." I looked around the table, since my wife seems incapable of it. "Nathan, you need to leave." Megan stood up. "You're embarrassing yourself." "Am I?" I pulled out my phone. "Should I play the recording instead? The one where you laugh about how clueless I am? The one where you and Garrett discuss the shell company you created in my name?" Garrett's fork clattered against his plate. Silence. Complete silence. "I know everything, Megan. The affair, the stolen money, the forged signatures, the offshore accounts." I paused. "The pregnancy you terminated 4 months ago." Gasps around the table. Someone whispered, "Oh my God." Megan's composure cracked. "You have no right." "I have every right. You stole from me. You lied to me. You created a fake company in my name and funneled over $100,000 to the Cayman Islands." I looked at Garrett. "With his help." Every head turned to Garrett. His face was gray. Vanessa stood up slowly. "It's true. I have proof. Photographs, bank statements, text messages." She looked at her husband with cold fury. "I've known for 6 months. I just wanted to wait until the right moment." This was the moment. The table erupted. Kristen demanding explanations, her husband shouting at Garrett, Megan trying to defend herself while everyone stared at her like she was a stranger. I didn't stay for the chaos. I'd said what I needed to say. I walked out the front door into the cool night air. Vanessa followed a moment later. "That felt good," she said quietly. "It's not over yet, but it's a start." Behind us, I could hear shouting, accusations, the sound of a social circle imploding. Megan had tried to destroy me. Instead, she'd just destroyed herself. And everyone who mattered had finally seen the truth. The papers arrived on Monday. Bennett had drafted them exactly as promised. Detailed, devastating. Every crime documented, every consequence spelled out. Megan had 48 hours to sign or face federal prosecution. She signed in 36. We met at Bennett's office, neutral ground. Megan looked smaller than I remembered, hollow, dark circles under her eyes. The woman who'd laughed about how clueless I was couldn't meet my gaze. She signed every page without argument. The house, the business, full acknowledgement of debt she'd created. 0 alimony, clean break. In exchange, I agreed not to file criminal charges. She'd have to deal with the banks and credit card companies on her own, negotiate, grovel, explain how she'd stolen her husband's identity to fund an affair. but she wouldn't go to prison. Some people thought I was being too generous. Cole said I should have buried her. Vanessa said the same. But I didn't want revenge. I wanted my life back. Megan looked at me once as she signed the last document. "I'm sorry," she said quietly, "for everything." I studied her face, looking for the woman I'd married 11 years ago, the woman I'd loved, the woman I'd worked 70-hour weeks to provide for. She wasn't there anymore. Maybe she never had been. "No, you're not," I said. "You're sorry you got caught." She didn't argue, just finished signing and left. The weeks that followed were strange, quiet, like waking up after a long fever and realizing you're still alive. I threw myself into work. The garden center opened to strong sales. Turns out the scandal had actually generated publicity. People came to see the place where the cheating wife's husband worked. They stayed because the plants were good and the prices were fair. Garrett Nolan wasn't so lucky. Word spread fast after the dinner party. His employer let him go within a week. Last I heard, he'd moved to Arizona, working at a home improvement store for a fraction of what he used to make. Vanessa filed for divorce. It went through quickly. She kept the house, the kids, and her dignity. We still meet for coffee sometimes, two people who survived the same storm. Frank called me every Sunday just to check in, just to talk. He and Diane were in counseling, working through what Megan's choices had done to their family. It was slow going, but they were trying. "You're still my son," Frank told me once. "That doesn't change because she made bad choices." Those words meant more than I could express. Dee stopped by the office one afternoon with homemade tamales and a shy smile. "I heard the garden center is doing well," she said. "It is, thanks to you." She shook her head. "You built this, Mr. Caldwell. I just remembered things." I hired her that day, not as a housekeeper, as my office manager. Turns out the woman who noticed everything was exactly who I needed running the front desk. And Simone. We took it slow. Coffee became dinner, dinner became long walks through the art district. She didn't push, didn't ask for more than I could give. One evening we sat on a bench outside the blue door, watching the sunset paint the mountains gold and pink. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if we'd stayed together back then?" she asked. "Sometimes, but I don't think I was ready. I had to become someone first." "And now?" I looked at her, really looked, at the gray streaking her hair, the laugh lines around her eyes, the patience in her expression. "Now I'm learning what it means to start over." She smiled and took my hand. Megan moved to Texas 3 months later, running from the whispers, I suppose. Frank told me she'd taken a job at some marketing firm in Austin. Fresh start, new city. I wished her well, not out loud, but somewhere deep down, I hoped she'd figure out how to be better than she'd been with me. Some nights I still think about that launch party, the sentence she said, the look she gave Garrett, the way everything I'd built came crashing down in a single moment. But I also think about what came after. Dee with her shoebox, Cole with his spreadsheets, Vanessa with her courage, Frank with his integrity, Simone with her patience. Megan tried to destroy me. Instead, she showed me who was real. Have you ever been truly seen by someone you thought was invisible? Sometimes salvation comes from the places we never think to look.